Intercollegiate sports has become a staple in the American society. From March Madness to Saturday college football and national bowl games, the popularity of these sporting events has increased as coverage has reached its peak. The value of sports are many in number and varied. From teaching leadership and teamwork to bridging the racial divide, few would argue against. In 1852, Harvard and Yale held the first commercial intercollegiate event, a crew race sponsored by a railroad company. 12 years later, in 1864, William Wadd would become the first coach to be appointed to the Yale crew team. Events such as these would be pivotal and important to jumpstarting the intercollegiate athletics as we know them today.
I would say balance between the two, because without the one, I really can't do the other. Because the basketball pays for my school, and if I don't do my schoolwork, my coach won't let me play. Also, my coach in particular, he focuses a lot on academic excellence. So, yeah.
Um,
Athletes, quite literally, are the key players in these sporting events. Taking on this identity comes with its own sets of challenges. In an article written by Joy Gaston Gales, she recommends that athletes should leave the athletic domain and pursue other interests, such as internships, joining clubs, or organizations. One challenge to this goal is that athletes have no time. Gaston Gale details how athletes must wake up early, have a full class schedule, practice, have study hall, as well as eat. On top of this, there is also class time missed to attend events, as well as added pressure to win. An athlete today has a lot of work to do, so much so that some would argue that they should be compensated. This is where the NCAA steps in. The NCAA holds the principle of amateurism, which views student athletes' participation as a vocation, and that they should not be able to make money off their name, image, or brand. There is hypocrisy to this notion of amateurism. In 1956, 4-year grants and aid were given based on ability. In 1973, this grant was replaced by a 1-year renewable scholarship. The money was not considered compensation for the athlete. If it was, then athletes would be viewed as employees and would require work compensation. The event the term student athlete was deliberately created by NCAA's ex president to avoid workers' compensation. This leads into the question of who has the power to renew these annual scholarships. One of the biggest stakeholders, coaches.
You have to give up a lot, especially you don't have much free time. I don't, especially for me, for international athletes. Only see my family if they come over here or when I go back in the summer. So you give out a lot of more the social aspect, I guess.
okay. Um,
Um, I, I really do think he had the best interest for us, because when we talk, he would always make sure we're doing okay. And even like, I know the first quarter, he would like really like reach out to me, like, "Are you doing okay? Like, if you really need anything, let me know." Um, and if we were doing bad, and he even like told me that I could still come back. Cause of my grades, I got kicked off the track team, so but I could still came back and been like a walk on, probably, but I just didn't want to anymore. But I feel like he has the best interest for everybody, make sure they're doing okay, and gets the best out of the college experience.
What is a coach? Some say a coach is the person who physically trains you. Others would argue that a coach is a mentor, a parental figure, and a person who develops their team both on and off the field. Regardless of the definition you choose, it can generally be agreed upon that a coach plays a significant role in their athletes' lives. Nuno Gennaro looked at variables affecting athletes. They found that athletes competing at high levels had lower retention rates. Veronica Allen explored the relationship between coaches' emotions and adolescent athletes' psychosocial development. Athletes who had calm, inquisitive coaches reported significantly more pro social behavior and less antisocial behavior directed towards opponents. This was in comparison with athletes who had intense hustle coaches. Allen argued that this suggests coaches' emotions during practice may affect their athletes' moral behavior. Maria Cavusanu did research and found that mismatched gender coaches with their athletes led to negative prediction of the coach's efficacy on multiple dimensions. If a coach does not realize that there is a problem, then they are not likely to fix it. One main structural issue is hiring practices of coaches. In Chapter 13 of Dr. Como's book, Intercollegiate Athletic, the institution's racial climate is discussed. It is argued that more minority coaches need to be hired and more diversity and competency needs to be created within the athletic system. There are also coach incentives. Instead of getting rewarded of how their athletes are performing as students, coaches get large sums of money for winning games. If a coach has the power to renew an athlete's scholarship and financial aid, which is critical to the student, it could be used as leverage against athletes to take on extra volunteer practice. Coaches have the power to choose an athlete's academic advisor as well as the tutor they receive. It is even possible for a coach to know an athlete's grade before they do. We argue that this is too much power over the athletes. A solution would be to increase diversity, competency, and stakeholders. The more aware they are of this vulnerable student population, the better equipped stakeholders can cater to athletes' needs. In particular, for coaches, one structural change would be to hire more minority coaches. One of the biggest changes that could happen would be to change the coaches' incentives. Instead of paying them for whoever has the most wins, decrease that amount. Instead, increase the money they receive for having their athletes do well in the classroom. It would also behoove us all if the coaches' power over academic advisors and selection of tutors would be taken away as well. Athletes should have the opportunity to leave the athletic domain and pursue advisors that are not biased and may not have the athlete's best intentions as priority. Finally, if the renewable annual scholarship system were to be taken away and we revert back to the 4-year grant system, we believe much of the pressure and stress of athletes would be alleviated. The first step to any of these solutions is to be educated. Make sure you go out and start having these discussions with friends, family, and faculty.